Rick Klein joins me now to unpack this a bit further. Rick, Democrats are set to take control of the Senate now after the runoff elections yesterday. How could we see the new Congress and the new administration deal with what happened yesterday?
Diane, it's going to be left to them, and we're going to get maybe an important signal even this afternoon when Joe Biden names his choice for Attorney General. Merrick Garland, of course, he's a judge in the D.C. Court of Appeals, known primarily as being Barack Obama's choice for the Supreme Court, who never got a hearing, but he was also a prosecutor in the Oklahoma City bombings, one of the most famous examples of domestic terrorism. It's almost certain that he is going to inherit these investigations as they proceed against individuals that were involved in inciting and involved in the rioting and the chaos and the occupation and, frankly, the terrorism that happened at the Capitol yesterday. And any accountability for President Trump in a formal way is probably going to have to wait for January 20th. Congress is not in session for the next 2 weeks. There is talk still of impeachment. Interesting footnote on impeachment. One of the things that impeachment can achieve is to disqualify someone from holding public office. So just because President Trump is no longer president in 2 weeks doesn't mean he couldn't be impeached and disqualified from office.
So, Rick, he can be impeached and removed even after he's out of office?
Well, removed, he'll be removing by himself, according to the statement this morning. And I think there's no indication otherwise. 13 days from now, he will be an ex-president. But a conviction by the Senate could include a sanction that says you can't hold any public office in the United States.
And then what about the 25th Amendment? We're hearing that be brought up a lot, particularly now. How realistic do you think it is that the cabinet could remove him?
Yeah, just in the last couple of minutes, the first Republican Congressman, Adam Kinzinger, Republican from Illinois, an Army veteran, he's very critical of the president in his conduct, particularly since the election, the first to now say the 25th Amendment should be invoked. This is a constitutional provision that was put in the wake of the Kennedy assassination, where members of Congress realized that if a president were to be incapacitated, there was no clear way to handle that. It was intended, and it has been invoked at times when a president goes under for minor surgery or something like a colonoscopy. But it's never been tested in the sense of mental fitness, which is what we're talking about now. Our team of reporters, including John Carl and John Santucci, Catherine Folders, have been talking about how this is being discussed at certain levels of government, including among cabinet secretaries. It would take a majority vote of the current cabinet in addition to the vice president's sign off, and it would put powers, make the vice president acting president. I don't think it is realistic. I think a lot of things would have to fall into place in a very short period of time. But the fact that we're even talking about that 13 days out is astounding.
And you heard Santucci touch on this a bit, but the quietness, the lack of statement or anything from the White House this morning in relation to those events, with the exception of condolences for the families of those who died. We heard from John Carl this morning tweeting that the White House was rather empty and the door to the press office is locked. The press secretary hasn't responded to calls and emails. How strange is that?
It's bizarre. I mean, look, we were at a time of COVID, but COVID hasn't been acknowledged really by the West Wing. The president's mind has been elsewhere, as evidenced by the call over the weekend trying to pressure the Georgia Secretary of State, as evidenced by his decision to attend that rally and encourage people to march on the Capitol yesterday morning. He's been thinking almost exclusively about his election, and he's not really processed what that means. And the functioning of government is ground to a halt. And frankly, there are many people on the White House staff still currently, people that haven't offered their resignations, who are embarrassed by the actions of the last 2 months and of the last 24 hours. And all of that has taken a toll on the basic functioning of government. The White House, as our team has been saying, essentially a ghost town right now. And the president missing in action in all of this, other than that video that he put out, a statement this morning from his communications director acknowledging that he would participate in a peaceful transfer of power. Other than that, we hear nothing from the man.
And Rick, it seems the bright spots, the small ones we can find, or maybe big ones, depending on your perspective, that we can find in all of this, is that at the end of the day, Congress did reconvene. They counted those electoral votes. They carried out our democratic process. And so in the end, our Constitution and democracy prevailed yesterday, or the early hours of this morning. And in addition to that, we also saw some signs of bipartisan unity overnight that we haven't seen in a long time. Do you think this could change the tone in Washington moving forward?
You know, I have to say it prevailed, but very, very barely. We're talking about the thinnest of margins, a couple of statesmen in states in conducting elections and among members of Congress. Otherwise, we would be in a worse state of chaos today. Look, I think Biden and his big challenge is to try to knit together this country. And I think You're seeing in Congress the makings of a bipartisan coalition. You saw it on the stimulus bill around COVID. You saw it around the override of the president's veto of the defense bill. And yes, you saw it ultimately in the rejection of these challenges to the electoral count. But keep in mind, more than 100 Republicans still objected after everything that happened yesterday to the certification of Joe Biden's victory in the early hours of this morning. The tens of thousands of people who stormed the Capitol, they're not going anywhere. And President Trump will be an ex-president, but his movement is not disappearing. And I think the efforts to try to right the country's course is going to have to take that into account in a major way. So I don't want to end on a note of pessimism, but these have not been a good couple of days for American democracy. And yes, we got past the immediate crisis. It could have been a lot worse yesterday, but that isn't to say it couldn't get a lot worse looking forward. No, it's certainly not, which is why we should look back and learn from this wherever we can. Rick Klein, thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.